I was gonna welcome you to the town, then you blew bubbles in my face. Now I don't feel like it. That right there won a competition. Yeah, I'm just as surprised as you are. This past weekend, I took part in the Global Game Jam, one of the biggest game jams of the year. If you don't know what a game jam is, it's basically a friendly competition where a group of game developers come together and give themselves a deadline to make a game from start to finish. Everything from the programming, design, art, and music, all of it comes together in whatever time limit you're given, and it can be a ton of fun. If you do one in person, it can be a great way to meet other game developers, collaborate together, and maybe even camp out in a classroom for a weekend, having self-induced insomnia as you crunch your hours away, chugging 5-hour energies, coming up with crazy ideas that make no sense, and writing code that you swore worked 5 minutes ago. It's a blast with the right people and the right setup. In the past, that's what I used to do. I would go to the physical jam site, hang out with my buddies for a weekend, and simulate real-life crunch time. You see, this jam had a deadline of only 48 hours, which means that we only had 2 full days to create a masterpiece that could be displayed in the Minecraft Sistine Chapel. And this year, I was doing it so low. Don't get me wrong, if you can do it with friends, I think that there's a lot more to be gained by doing it that way than doing it alone. You have people to keep you accountable, you have someone besides your desktop rubber ducky to talk to, and most importantly, you have other people to share the load with. You don't have to do the music, the art, the coding, the designing. You can just do one or a few of those things, whatever you want. Let the team handle the rest. But me, I'd like to say that I have the confidence to do it alone and win single-handedly. I think it'd be baller if I could just say, hey, I don't need those plebs. I can do it all myself, Dad. But the truth is, I was busy that weekend. I'd already made some plans, had people over, and didn't know if I could commit to the full 48. So instead of half-heartedly working with a team that I would be the dead wheel on, I decided to do it myself, and to work on it when I felt like it. Take it easy, you know? Just relax. Oh, wait. Yeah, that's right. This is a game jam. Relaxing doesn't exist here. Let me start at the most important part, the theme. Most game jams will have a theme, something that ties all the games being made together. It's usually something intentionally vague, like Roots. You can see my game Roots of Evil for that one. Or even a topic like Boss. See my game Queen of the Hive for my take on that. You can take that theme to mean whatever you want. Boss could mean a lot of different things. Boss at work, a boss rush type of game, boss you around, you got it, boss. All that good stuff. You can use your imagination and try to keep the game's idea central to that theme as best as you can. So, what was Global Game Jam's theme? Must be something pretty solid, right? Something that screams games. Would it be bullet? Crowd? How about bubble? Yeah, bubble. I'm going to give you a second to see if you can come up with a fun and engaging game based around bubbles. No, I'll give you a second. I'll wait. Seriously, bubbles, at least to me, was a hard theme. The only bubble games I could think of were those matching bubble shooting games for your phone, and I really didn't want to make one of those. So I panicked for a bit, thrashed around uncontrollably, then calmly and collectedly began to rationalize my options. I wrote down every single synonym for bubble, looked it up in the thesaurus, thought about different kinds of way to say bubble, to mean bubble. Maybe it's a bubbly personality. Maybe you're trapped in some kind of bubble. Maybe the bubble is completely metaphorical? Oh yeah, that's a good one. A psychological therapy game about a therapy bubble. Yeah, that wasn't going to work. What makes this worse is that all throughout this process, I, as the designer, also need to think about the competition as a whole. I only have 48 hours to do this, so the idea I come up with can't be too complex. I'm also not much of an artist, so something simplistic, something that even I can make look good for a quick video. And then, after lots of thinking, divine intervention. I was thinking about a silly little bubble blowing simulator. One of those one-off games you see on Steam for $1, don't really pay any attention to unless you get a good chuckle out of the sheer absurdity of the idea. Goat Simulator, Surgeon Simulator, Hand Simulator, Soda Simulator, stuff like that. But then I thought to myself, what would happen when you blew the bubbles in a bubble simulator? Would people even notice or care? How would I feel if some random guy came up to me and started blowing bubbles in my face?
Oh yeah, soak me up, pal. Real normal of you.
Oh yeah, that could actually work. So, there was the idea. You'd go around blowing bubbles on people and things to get their reaction. No explanation, no larger story, not even a main goal to the game. I went wild at first, thinking of all the funny reactions that could happen, thinking up different slapstick comedy things that might occur if you were to blow bubbles around at random people. The ideas were getting pretty good. Some people could be very offended by the idea. Some people could be kind of creepy and off-putting, and some people may not pay any attention to you at all. This would give me the flexibility to start writing lots of good jokes into the game, but still, something felt missing. My initial jokes, they were all just written words said in a funny tone, given a little bit of crackle to the background of them. I know that can still be very convincing, but that ignores a lot of comedic rules. Sure, blowing bubbles is the setup, but if the punchline is the same every time, just someone saying something, there's no element of surprise to it. The surprise wears off, and all you're left with is a glorified, funny graphic novel. I needed something to shake up that element of surprise. So, I started working. I ignored the problems for now. I wrote down a few jokes, thought of a few physical, funny, comedy things that would happen, and started coding in the player movement and the bubbles. I drew my own bubble sprites, made them into a cute little particle effect, and had them colliding with the NPCs. I wrote a general-purpose NPC script that would trigger when the bubble hit a collider, all the standard trimmings on that. But that surprise was still missing. I felt lost. Around the 6-hour mark of the first day, I was feeling kind of down. The game just didn't feel justified to exist, and it didn't feel funny enough to me. I confided in my girlfriend about these issues, about how I just didn't know if stressing over Blow was a good idea for my mental state. Oh yeah, I named the game Blow. This was supposed to be fun, this game jam, and here I was, not really enjoying the process. That's when my girlfriend gave me some of the best advice, and something that I encourage anyone doing game jams to do. They told me to set a goal to know when you can be done. Now, I know that sounds cheesy, and from an artistic standpoint, I know better than most that art is never finished. It's simply abandoned. But they had a point. Up until now, I had just been working on the assumption that I would create until the time ran out. But because my game didn't really have a start or an end, there was no clear goal of when I could truly turn it in and be happy. No metric I could use to say I was making progress. So I settled on a goal, a definitive number that I could work towards. 20 jokes, 10 of written comedy, 10 of physical slapstick comedy. If I could get 20 jokes in the game, I could consider it done. I could say that I put my hard work in, and the outcome would be worth it. This reinvigorated me like nothing else. This gave me new purpose. I made sure to whittle down my list of jokes that I already had to only the 20 best ones I could think of, and I got to work on those. I was back on track, back on top. And as soon as I was back on track, back on top, and I was over that mental hurdle, I found my next big hallelujah moment. I was beginning to add animations into the NPCs, trying to decide what they should all be doing as they stand around in the scene saying and doing hilarious things. And I was browsing Mixamo for some free, easy animations. I found something hilarious. there was this push-up animation that totally brightened my outlook on the project. Oh my god, this is hilarious. I started madly browsing through Mixamo's catalog, looking for all the funny animations I could find. Silly dances, drunken walk cycles, weird idle animations, anything that I found I downloaded without a second thought. And from these animations, I found several of my best jokes. This was it. I had found the surprise I was looking for. I started creating like mad, making new jokes out of the animations and tweaking some existing jokes to work with the new formats. I even created a few animations myself for some of the more custom jokes. This was all going so well. And so I created. I'd found the spark so I could keep going. I was in that flow state. And then the third day arrived. Third day, usually a polished day. I added in the rest of the jokes I wanted to and had time for, and then went to tweaking the lighting around, tweaking the terrain around as much as I could to make the scene look nice. There were a few glaring performance bugs, like the player controller checking for the ground and casting a physics overlap sphere every single frame. It dropped my performance from like 200 frames a second to like 120, which, when you're thinking about running this in a WebGL browser, is kind of a lot. I also started messing around with the terrain to make it more performant. Turns out if you turn down the resolution of the terrain itself away from thousands of terrain bits per minute, whatever terrain thing is, once you turn down the resolution, it can really work better on mobile and web devices. Either way, once all that was done, I bundled it all up for the Global Game Jam, made a quick thumbnail and took some screenshots, went onto the site where you're supposed to upload the project, and the website was down. It was an hour early though. No big deal. I made a quick gameplay video. It's just the first 7 or so jokes. This was for the KSU Game Jam site I was a part of. I'll check back later. So I waited another 20 minutes, something like that. Checked the upload site. Still no bueno. The submission deadline was coming close. I was sweating bullets. I thought all of this work, all of that mental fortitude out the window. Bye-bye. The jam organizers were also clearly panicking in the Discord as well. Then the submission deadline passes. Still no site. At this point, I'm refreshing the page every 5 seconds, every 5 minutes. I'm thinking it's over for Blow. Apparently, nearly 10,000 people were all trying to upload their submissions all at the same time, and Global Game Jam just hadn't thought about that being a problem.
Huh?
For the largest annual game jam of the year, you'd think they would have thought about that. But Global Game Jam themselves soon put out a press release that submissions would still be opening until the following day. So I breathed a deep sigh of relief, decided to leave it alone for a little bit. While all this was going on the KSU Jam site itself, they were having the closing ceremony. This is where all the projects that were created get to show off what they made over the weekend. And at the end of all the presentations, the participants get to vote for whose game was the most fun and interesting of the jam. I'll be honest, I didn't think I had a chance in hell of winning. Some of the teams that participated were 6 or 10 people large, with student artists, ton of time, and veteran programmers. No way that a game about blowing bubbles at strangers would make it in. So instead of watching the ceremony, I decided to record the stream for later and go watch a movie. I think we watched Summersby, which, if you haven't seen it, very good drama and period piece. Kind of a mystery meets romance meets historical drama type of movie. Very, very high recommend. Anyway, before bed, I tried to log into the Jam site, which was finally online. I submitted my stuff, ended the stream recording of the KSU closing ceremony, and I decided to log off for the night. But in the middle of the night, tossing and turning, I just couldn't get my curiosity out of my head. Who had won? What did the other games even look like? Did I have a chance? I got out of bed, rubbed the sleep out of my eyes, and loaded up the recording. The quality was really, really bad. It was being recorded through a phone and then on Discord, and I was recording that through OBS, which was just screen recording that. But I watched it through regardless. So many cool projects, like this tic-tac-toe game with a bubble theme, a game about being a hamster in one of those little hamster balls, different RPGs, action games, so many different takes on the theme. So much passion for the art. I always love in game jams seeing people working hard at game design and all the different ways that you can see one idea come to life in different formats. And then my video comes up. My gameplay footage of Blow made at the very last second. The video starts, and even through the crappy quality recording, I can feel the energy in the room. There's plenty of laughter at the jokes, oohs and ahs at some of the surprising elements like the house tipping over. Exactly the kind of reaction that I was expecting. My face breaks out into, admittedly, a huge smile. This is the feeling I was aiming for. Delight, passion, laughter. My body feels light as a feather. My head feels dizzy with praise for my game. Reading delightful comments and getting good feedback on something you make is one thing, but hearing it and seeing it in person is a whole different rush. I'm loving it. I won't even deny it. It is a huge ego trip for me. And then I go to the recording of the award ceremony. I'm basically holding my breath. There were 23 teams that entered at this jam site, and all of them did pretty dang well. They call out the third place team Bubble Yaga, that bubble tic-tac-toe game. Well deserved, and the art was amazing. They did so good on that. Then it comes to the second place team, and because of the crappy video recording, I can't hear the name of the game, but the applause is hearty and it seems well deserved. And then I see the presenter's face contort into expression that I have gone back to see several times over. An expression of twisted delight, the kind of expression that says, God, I can't believe I have to say this out loud. And he says it.
All right. I'm going to give you first place. It's a game called...
The winner is Blow! The room laughs and gives this great reaction, and I launch out of my chair. I cannot believe it. After nearly a decade of making games and doing game jams, I have never had the honor of getting first. I've come in the top 10% a good few times, and I was already confident in my abilities, but this was the first time I've ever won outright a game jam. I called my girlfriend immediately, waking them up in the middle of the night with the news. I was kicking and screaming in my room, whooping and hollering with delight. That feeling, that validation, that'll stick with me for a good while, I think. And after that, the Global Game Jam was over. There does exist a statewide competition attached to Global Game Jam, where one team from each jam site is selected to work on their game for another month and compete at the state level. But my game was not selected for that. It makes sense. I'm a solo dev and no longer a student at KSU. I'm sure they wanted a team and a game with more promise than just a silly little blowing bubbles game from a solo alumni. But still, it would have been cool to compete again at the state level. I'm honestly considering going back to Blow, adding more jokes and more content, then releasing it on Steam for $1 or $2, just as a funny little comedy game for people to enjoy. Either way, thank you to everyone who gave Blow a chance, and thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. Please check out my other devlogs on Swap, my much bigger project, an FPS inspired by John Wick about swapping weapons and rescuing your dog Chomper. There's a link to the demo in the description below for both Blow and Swap. And until next time, have a great day.